Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for March 8th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here on my own to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. It was day 10 in the Big Brother Canada 10 house. And there's a lot to get through here. I'm here on my own. We're gonna run through the day. We're gonna be as detailed as possible as we get through what's happening in this house, because there's a lot that's happening in this house. There's a lot going on, and a lot of people, maneuvering around, a lot of alliances coming together, breaking apart relationships. Today on the feeds, we had a veto ceremony, a replacement nominee that was blindsided. So a lot to get through today. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know in the chat as we run through it. Let me also try to, if you're watching along, try to pull out the cast. Let me know if that's too small, and if it is, I can make it bigger. But here we go. Let's run through the day here. Day 10 in the Big Brother Canada 10 house. So we started the day, and I talked about this yesterday on the feeds, that Marty, Kyle, and Gino came together to talk about the plan to put Betty on the block instead of Kevin. So of course Marty is the HOH. He put up JC and Jay as for eviction, with Jay as the target. JC won the veto. JC plans to take herself down. The original nominee for the replacement was going to be Jess, and then it was going to be Kevin. And then yesterday, day 9, that changed to Betty, as I talked about. So heading into day 10, the plan has changed to Betty. Marty, Kyle, and Gino are going to talk through it in the morning. Marty is also going to talk about replacing Moose with Herman in their group of 4. They've had an alliance of 4, Marty, Kyle, Gino, and Moose. But Marty wants to replace Moose with Herman, and they're going to talk about that. Marty also talks about being skeptical of Summer and Tanisha. This is information that came from Kevin, that they are potentially playing the middle and waiting to flip the game. Marty is also going to talk with Gino about this idea of switching Moose with Herman. He lets Gino know about his final 2 with Helena that he has, and says that he wants to keep the renom plan on the down low. He's not going to tell anybody about Betty going up on the block. Now, that's all stuff that I said to you yesterday. And that's pretty much what we had in the morning before the veto ceremony. Marty did lie to Moose, saying to Moose that Kevin was still going to go up on the block as the replacement. He also lied to Jay in front of Jess, and I believe even Summer, telling all of them, hey, Kevin is still going to go up on the block. Did not let anybody know that it was going to be Betty. So we get to the replacement, or the replacement nominee ceremony, the veto ceremony. Jace uses the veto on herself, and Betty is blindsided as the replacement nominee. Now, we're going to hear a lot about what happened in the veto ceremony. A lot of people looked very shocked, because of course they did. And that meant something to some of the people in the house. We'll get to that. So after the veto ceremony, Betty is not pleased. Betty's not happy. Betty was blindsided, and Betty's going to be talking to JC when the feeds come back on. Betty is mad. She's mad at Marty because Marty told her that she should put her feet up. Kick your feet up. You're fine. You're good. We saw Marty say this to Stephanie in the episode last night. It's something that he told a lot of people. And Betty's not happy. Why did he tell that to me if I'm not good? Why did he blindside me? She says, the way I see it, she says this to JC, the way I see it, Marty, Kyle, and Gino are together. Those are the people I'm looking at. And JC says, well, look, I have reason to keep you, right? Like, we now have a mutual target because we were both put on the block by the same guy. And Betty says she sees Kyle and Stephanie walk by, and she's like, that Kyle, acting like he didn't know. He knew. He knew for sure why I was going to go up on the block. And interesting that he's walking with Stephanie right now. She says this to JC. JC is very tight with Stephanie. And in response to that, JC's like, oh, yeah, we're totally not that tight, me and Steph. Don't worry about saying weird things about Steph in front of me. They say that they should be working together. They haven't really been able to connect, but they really should be able to get together here. But Betty is not doing a good job as she continues to talk about Stephanie not being somebody that she really wants to work with. Betty is also going to say that as much as Betty says to Jay-Z, as much as I said I didn't know which way I was going to vote between you and Jay, I was definitely going to vote to keep you. I just, I was just saying I wasn't sure before that, but I was definitely going to keep you. Betty says that she wants to talk to the women and plant seeds that they're all going to be picked off one by one if they don't stick together. And JC says, you know what, Betty, I am keeping you. Don't worry about it. I will vote to keep you. I'm not going to tell Jay though. And Betty says Jay's running around saying that you're a vote for them. And JC's like, okay, that's great, but just so you know, I'm a vote for you, and I will be I will tell Jay just the night before. That's it. So they have that conversation. In the meantime, Summer and Tanisha are also going to be talking and reacting to this move. They're not super pleased with Betty at the moment because Betty is being a little bit extra. And they really think that Betty needs to chill out a little bit. What is she doing? She's not a target. She's out first in every competition. She needs to stop acting like this is some big ploy to get her out. On the bright side, she's going to be really against the guys now, and they can use that. But man, they really need to figure that out. They both agree that they do want to work with Kevin, but he needs to stop putting himself down because it's getting really annoying. Summer also says that so there was a thing that happened. Summer really still wants Jay out. They're also annoyed with Betty that Betty went up on the block. They almost kind of feel like it's Betty's fault because Betty was talking about keeping Jay, and that was a bad idea. Jay said to Summer and Tanisha that Steph and Jace were coming after them. And when Summer confronted Jace about it, it turned out to be false information. So Summer feels like Jay was feeding her false information and is very much okay with Jace leaving. They talk about the Savage Seven and how they are going to stick with it for now. They are a little concerned about it. They're concerned about Josh primarily. They feel like Josh doesn't talk game with them. Summer says that Josh is probably the most expendable person in the alliance. Well, him and Kyle. Well, it's not Kyle's fault that people are starting fights with him, she says. But they feel like that Josh is probably at the bottom of the totem pole here, and that maybe Kyle is as well because of the fights he's getting into. Tanisha says that I get the guys want to stay. I get that the guys want to stay together, but they're not dumb. They're going to want to take each other out. So they're feeling a little bit more comfortable in the 7 than they were the night before. And they're feeling like Josh is at the bottom. The guys are a little messy. We're going to be fine. Which is not exactly the case right now. Kevin's going to talk to Marty and just check in. Marty says that, Marty says, look, Kevin, I did not feel comfortable. I told you this before. I did not feel comfortable making deals with you before, but you're good with me now. I've made an enemy of Betty. Betty is never going to forgive me. So if I win again, she's going to be my target. And I can put up Betty and Josh. And that means, Kevin, that I can promise you, at least until jury, I'm not going to put you up. And Kevin's like, great, that's wonderful news. I'm same here. And they shake on it. And so they now have officially locked it in. Kevin is in no danger of Marty putting him up until jury. Betty is going to talk with Jess a little bit. Betty is not only upset with, Marty and Kyle and Gino, but she's also really upset with Kevin. She noticed that Kevin was talking to Marty, and that he had been talking to Marty, and that it was supposed to be Kevin that went up on the block. So Betty is pretty pissed at Kevin, and she wants to blow him up. Now Jess advises her that that's maybe not the best idea. Maybe don't do that. But Betty is stewing. She's not pleased with Kevin. Jace is going to talk with Steph and fill her in on the conversation that she had with Betty, letting her know that Betty is not a fan of Stephanie. And Steph is pretty annoyed. She still wants to keep Betty because they also talk about how Jay tried to convince Summer and Tanisha that they were against them. So Jay still has to go. But Steph is going to have to talk with Betty and make sure that Betty isn't coming for her, because why would she be talking bad about Steph? There's no reason to. So that's where they stand, right? So Betty's on the block against Jay now. We've heard from Summer and Tanisha. Jay is still going. We've heard from Jason, Steph. Jay is still going. And the guys are still pretty much on the same page as well. Jay is still going. Nothing has changed, but Betty is kind of doing her best to change that. Betty tells the cameras that she wants to target Kevin. Kevin is her new target, and the boys too. But she's so pissed at Kevin. She's just very unhappy with him. I think this is a situation where, Marty and to some degree Kyle and Gino, they were the ones that did this to her, right? She feels like, she had a conversation with Kevin the day before. She feels like Kevin must have thrown her under the bus. She feels like this was supposed to be Kevin. Kevin somehow got out from under this and it landed on me instead. And she's mad at Kevin for it. But it does kind of, to me, feel like she's mad at the person that is less powerful, right? Like Marty and Kyle and Gina, they're in power right now. So it's less safe to be mad at them. So all of her anger gets directed at the guy that can't defend himself. And is a lot easier to pick on to some degree, I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. But I think it'll be all right eventually, but not according to her, but eventually I think it will. So Jess is also going to talk to Marty, and Jess is going to tell Marty, Marty, you got to stop naming people. You got to stop talking to half the house and telling them who you think that your votes are, because it reveals who you trust. You got to stop naming all these names, especially my name. Stop telling people my name as a vote, please. And Marty's like, oh no, I don't do that. Don't worry about it. And it's oh boy. Kevin is going to talk to Josh briefly. Josh lets Kevin know he's not even on his radar, that they're good with each other. Josh is also going to talk with Jay, and they talk through their options for Jay's campaign. Josh recognizes that he might be in some trouble because he doesn't really talk to the guys, and he feels like that line of communication is not really open. I love hearing Josh say that he's aware of his biggest issue in the game, which is that he doesn't talk to people. But I'm still not seeing him do anything about it. I'm not seeing him go and then talk to these people who are constantly saying, I wish Josh would come and talk to me. He's so sketchy that he doesn't come and talk to me. Why doesn't he talk to me? And Josh is saying, people don't trust me because I don't talk to them. And then he's not talking to them. It's very frustrating. I think Josh has every skill he needs to do well in this game. He just needs to start being more active and talking to people. It's just not happening. It's frustrating. So that's going on there. Josh and Jay is in a position where they're trying to figure out, okay, I'm on the block against Betty now. I thought I was going to be on the block against Kevin. How do I campaign against Betty? They don't even really want to campaign against Betty because they really like Betty, and Betty was somebody that could have potentially voted for them to stay. And they are in a position now where they have to figure out, who do I go to? Do I go to the guys? Do I go to the women? Like, I don't like the guys, but it seems like they probably control the vote this week. And Josh is advising them to maybe try and make some kind of alliance with the guys. And Jay is kind of like, that would suck. So this is a dilemma that Jay is going through, that they're going to talk through a few times throughout the day. And I'm definitely interested to see where Jay goes with it. I feel like Jay kind of understands what they need to do, but they're reluctant to actually have to go and do it. And the longer they wait, the less likely it is to succeed. So I do think there's a route here for Jay. I do think that if they approached Marty and Kyle and Gino, and they flipped that core group that's in charge of the house right now, I do think that there's a path forward there. And there's a good argument to be made. Betty is busy being upset right now, that she is not in a position to effectively campaign, and you can easily paint her as somebody that's anti the bros. And look, I know we got off on the wrong foot, but I can help you. I think there's something there that has some kind of chance, but it has to start now because it's going to take a little while to turn that perception, I think. And I think Jay recognizes how much of a long shot it is, and is kind of thinking like, I don't want to degrade myself to do that just for a long shot of me staying, and is kind of facing that dilemma at the moment. So Kevin is going to talk to Betty, or try to talk to Betty. So remember, Betty, very upset at Kevin. How dare he not go up on the block and it be me instead? He tries to talk to her in the bathroom, and the audio comes in on her just saying, "Have a good life. Goodbye, Kevin." And he says, Okay, this is the last thing I'll say." And she interrupts, I don't want to hear a thing that comes out of your mouth. You get that? He goes, "Okay, well, when you're ready to talk, I will never be ready to talk. Thanks." Okay. He, he just dejectedly, just like with his head down, just like kind of starts walking away. And then he's like, "Oh, actually, I did need to go to the bathroom." He has to walk back over. Oh boy. Oh boy. Don't be named Kevin in the Big Brother house. People will just be mad at you. Um, Kevin's gonna go to Jay after this, and Jay, completely the opposite route here with Jay. Jay is talking to Kevin pretty soon after this and says, "Look, hey Kevin, I want to apologize. When your name was thrown out, I didn't say anything because I thought that you going up on the block was my best chance to stay, and that was wrong of me. I have trouble with the balance of personal and game, and I just want to apologize to you that I didn't stand up for you." Um, and Kevin, starts to respond like, "Oh, well, please don't use this, but I have a different approach to this game than most people." Feeds go down for a little while. They've been talking. Jess has joined them. And Jess is talking about how happy that they are that there is another non-binary person in the house with them, and they're upset that they're in trouble, and that might end soon. They don't really want Jay to go. And Kevin at this point, I imagine, feels pretty similarly in the sense that he doesn't want Jay to go, because Betty's there and Betty's not very happy with Kevin. So Kevin is like, "Jay, are you going to get to work? Like, let's do this. You make it happen." He is encouraging Jay to try and work to stay. But Jay says again, "I don't really know how. Like, I have to convince Marty, but I don't want to work with Marty. I don't want to grovel. What am I supposed to do? Go to Kyle and say, 'Hey, can we turn a new page?' Like, come on." And Jess and Kevin are like, "Well, yeah, yeah, that is what you should do. That would be huge. That would be great." Um, yeah, do that, actually. Kevin ends up leaving and going to talk to Marty. We'll get to that conversation in a second. And then Jay and Jess continue to talk for a long time. And they just, again, talk through different strategies. Jay asks, "Should I try to convince Marty and the bros that I'm with them and try to get them on board? Or do I go to Summer and the rest of the house and say, hey, I'm after Marty and the bros. I'm coming for them. They're liars. Like, I feel like that's what I want to do. That's what I would prefer to do. But is that the more effective path? And they basically say, I think I have to go with the rest of the house. I don't know. I don't know. And they keep talking and they keep going back and forth. And we'll kind of come back to that conversation a little bit later as they run through everything. So Kevin is going to leave that conversation, go and talk to Marty, and he fills Marty in on his interaction with Betty. He says, "Yeah, I tried to talk to Betty, and she called me a terrible person. Like personally, like she said you're a bad person, and didn't want to talk to me." And Marty's like, "What? Why is she mad at you? I don't understand that at all." And Kevin's like, honestly, I don't know. She probably thinks I threw her under the bus or something. I really like Betty. We've had great conversations, so I don't really understand it, but what are you gonna do? Marty says that okay, well, don't worry about Betty. She'll come around. Kevin's like, she said never, but okay. Marty says, look, I do think that it's a good thing that I put Betty up on the block because I am convinced that something was in the works to flip the vote against you, Kevin. When I put Betty on the block in the replacements in the veto ceremony, I saw Tanisha. Her face was like, "What?" She was shocked, and then and when I put Betty up afterward, I saw Moose run to talk to Summer and Tanisha afterward. Right? He ran to them. What were they saying? Right? They were scrambling. It's because their plan was ruined. We did it. I can't wait to go back and watch and see if I'm right and that if that was the right move. It's like, yeah, she was shocked because she didn't think it was gonna happen. I don't. You did that on purpose, Marty. I don't know what you mean. Uh, they both also again talk about how skeptical of Josh they are because Josh never talks to them. And they think a lot of people will be targeting Moose. They think that Moose is kind of going to become a house target pretty soon. So that's that conversation. Now, there's a lot of hanging out. They're playing hide and seek. They're playing red light, green light, and they're just in general hanging out, having fun. Gino and Jace, as we've talked about, as you've seen in the episode, getting a little closer. I've said this before, they've had at least one time a day where they spend an hour or more, maybe 2 hours, just together, alone, chatting, getting to know each other, being a little flirty. Typically, they're maintaining some physical distance, but occasionally they have a little bit of closeness. That's accelerating here on day 10. They are going to be in a group setting, sitting next to each other, kind of like really getting cozy, really getting cuddly, and people are starting to notice. Nobody's really surprised. They've all been expecting this, but they are starting to talk about it. Helena mentions it. They all kind of mention like, yeah, we kind of figured this was going to happen. This is becoming more and more of a public thing. Gino and Jace. This is how it starts. I imagine this is just going to continue as time goes on. So that's happening there. Now, Kevin is going to go and check in with Kyle. And Kyle is asking Kevin, who would you put up if you won HOH? Kevin says, everyone. Kyle's like, good. I love it. Kevin says, not you, not Marty. And Kyle says, yes, I agree. I wouldn't put up Marty or Gino. Those are people that I feel good with. And Kyle also says, during the veto ceremony, I saw a lot of people looking scared, like Summer and Tanisha. They were running around. Summer was talking to everyone. And Kevin lets him know about Betty reaming him out, and Kyle is very surprised by that as well. Kyle's like, what? Why is she mad at you? Makes no sense. So Kyle really feeling good about his connection to Kevin and feeling like very comfortable mentioning Marty and Gino again. Kyle's going to kind of explain this later in the night, but Kyle's becoming more and more open to the idea of um, basically being open about his relationship with Gino and Marty. He's starting to feel like, okay, people are putting us in this group anyway. Maybe I should start to lean into it. And so he's being more and more open about his connection to them, feeling like the more people understand that we are together, the more scared people will be of coming after us, essentially. That's kind of his thought process at the moment. So uh, Summer is also going to talk with Kevin briefly. They check in. He lets Summer know about Betty reaming him out. He says, yeah, Summer, I tried to get in with Betty the other day because you and Tanisha told me to. I ended up doing the exact opposite, though. I tried talking to her. It did not go well. Yesterday, I talked to her, and I made a joke about her throwing competitions, and that was a mistake. And then today, she got really mad at me when she went up on the block. And I like this about Kevin. Now, I think that we talked about this yesterday. Kevin is putting himself down too much. And we heard that directly from Summer and Tanisha that they like Kevin. They want to work with Kevin, but he needs to stop putting himself down so much. One thing I do like from Kevin, though, and this is something that Steve did very effectively in Big Brother 17, is that is the taking advice, asking for advice, taking somebody's advice makes them feel powerful and smart and like they have influence over you. And so when Kevin says, and I love the way that he ties this in, he says, I took your advice. You told me to go and get in with Betty. It's not going well. It's my fault that it's not going well. You gave me great advice. It gives this perception of, yes, I am yours to point and shoot, right? So I love that, and so many people do look at Kevin as their piece to point and shoot, Kyle included, right? So so good stuff there. Summer says, "Oh, don't worry about that. Just give it time." That's what I'll say to you. Just give it time. Just give it time. They're very funny together here. Kevin's going to go back to Kyle, and Kyle gives him a pep talk. Kevin says, I just feel like I haven't, like, my place in the house hasn't been carved yet. And Kyle says, well, I'll help you sharpen that axe. Kyle really feeling like Kevin is a weapon that he can use, I think, and very excited about his relationship with Kevin. Everybody not really recognizing the threat that Kevin poses to them because Kevin is definitely willing to throw anybody under the bus if he needs to. But for now, he's playing his role. Now, Jay and Jess are going to be talking some more. They really just continuing the conversation from before. They're still talking about who Jay should pitch as their target. We only catch like a brief bit of this here, but this is like hours later at this point, and they ask like, okay, so who should I say is my target? Who are my options? That if somebody asks me who my target is, who do I say? My only thought at this point is Summer and Tanisha. And Jess says kind of jokingly, or my ass, it's say you're targeting me. So I believe the implication here is that they wouldn't actually be targeting Summer and Tanisha necessarily, but that they might start saying that they're targeting Summer and Tanisha as a way of trying to get people to be okay with keeping them in the game. I like the way that Jay is thinking here. Jay is really trying to consider as many options as possible in terms of what their campaign should be, what their pitch should be, how they should position themselves in the game, as the perception of who they are and who they're coming after and who they're with. Again, though, the problem is that they need to get on it. Today is Tuesday now. The eviction is Thursday. They need to start moving this, because changing perception is difficult as they recognize themselves and they know what a big task is ahead of them, and that sort of intimidates them. But because of that, I think they need to get going as soon as possible. So just a few more things here as we get to close out the day. Moose, Kyle, Marty, and Gino, that four is going to check in. Now, of course, Kyle, Marty, and Gino don't really want to be working with Moose anymore, but he's still with them in these check-ins. And Kyle says, "Look, a lot of people are talking about targeting us. It's going around a lot that the people want to target us. The plan, though, is to take out Jay this week, just win next week. Just keep winning. They keep winning, keep taking out their targets. They're going to be great." He says, "By putting Betty up, you really the fog lifted, and you exposed Summer, Betty, and Tanisha. You exposed that they're not really loyal to the seven. The seven is done. The seven is out. The seven is not going to be with us, right?" He says that Summer and Tanisha have been exposed. They were going to flip it on us. And you see how many people Summer was talking to today after the veto ceremony? Talking to so many people. Not to us, though. Not to us. And Kyle says that Kevin is like ready to go as well. Like Kevin is ready to strike, and I love it. So this is kind of how the game is repositioning here. The seven, not the seven has never. We've never seen the seven come together on the feeds. In the episodes, we never saw them come together either. So I don't even know if they've ever been in the same room together, just making the alliance. But who knows? But the seven is kind of crumbling away. The seven is seemingly not going to be much of a thing unless certain people win the HOH next week. But in particular, it's looking like Kyle, Gino, Marty, those three at the very least are kind of pulling away from the seven. Moose has, Moose is Moose. Moose is Mayhem Moose. He's all over the place. I don't think any alliances exist in Moose's head. He's just ready to go in any direction. Josh doesn't feel comfortable with the seven. Josh barely talks game with them at all. Then Summer and Tanisha feel comfortable within the seven enough that they feel like they should keep riding the seven for a while. And they are a little bit behind the eight ball here. They're a little bit out of the loop in terms of that. Herman has always been very, gung-ho about the seven. He said on the episode that he's the one that created it. But even though he is also a bit behind in terms of where things are going, the Kyle, Gino, Marty group does want to bring him in. So he may kind of have an escape route from that, while also being able to maintain that connection to Summer and Tanisha that the others are perhaps neglecting. So that's all going on there. Then you have these more wild card players like Helena, Kevin, Jess, who are all playing similar games, running around, creating individual relationships, trying to get pulled into something. You have Jacey and Steph, who are together, linked with the Retreat Alliance, which is really what gives Kyle and Gino the majority of their power at this point. Honey Bunch seems long gone at this time. I haven't even heard it referenced in a while. Things are shaping up in different ways. The next HOH, we say this all the time, especially in the beginning portions of the season, but the next HOH is going to be huge in terms of where things solidify and how this house locks in to place, because there are so many different directions that this can go. If Kyle and his crew, as they talk about, win the next HOH, if they win the next couple of HOHs, then what they're saying will probably come to be. They probably will settle the house in a way that really benefits them, and they will be difficult to stop. If other people win, if Moose wins, who knows, right? Moose said he's going after Tanisha. That would kind of play into what Kyle and them want, but who knows if Moose actually does that, right? If Kevin, Jess, Helena, they all are a little bit more connected to the Kyle sides than some of the other sides. Helena has a little bit more options. Jess is kind of all over the place enough that they could go in different ways. The problem is that Jess and Summer have never really connected very well. But there are, Summer and Tanisha, they could go after Jace. So there are a lot of different ways this can go. I think Betty at this point would probably be the best shot at taking a direct strike at the Kyle, Gino, Marty group and really cutting that off before it is able to grow too much. But there are definitely different directions that this house can go in. For now, though, this group is in a pretty good space, and we will see where things go. Kyle is going to check in with Marty as well at the end of the night after this bigger check-in. Kyle has a plan, right? So Kyle has a plan. He talked about this on day 9, the day before, with Gino, that he's heard that Steph and Jace are talking about stringing the guys along and then cutting them. He heard this from Moose. How Moose heard this, I have no idea. Did Moose make it up? I don't know, but it is something that they have said. So he's heard this about Jace and Steph. So Kyle's plan that he's pitching to Marty at the end of the night is that he wants Gino to go to Jace. He's got a great connection to Jace, obviously, budding showmans. And he wants Gino to say to Jace, hey, I've been hearing that you've been saying that you're just going to use the guys, string us along, and then cut us. I don't believe it, but just so you know, I'm hearing this. Kyle says, Jace is going to go, oh my God, who told you that? It's a lie. And at that point, Gino will say, Moose told us. Moose told us this. Moose has been spreading this. They're going to think that Moose is blowing them up, and they're going to go after Moose before they come after us. And they're going to want to prove to us that they weren't saying that, right? I really like this plan in general. I feel like it's a pretty good one. I think that it will probably work the way that Kyle thinks it will, especially using Jace to do it. And using Moose as kind of an expendable person. There's no reason to believe Moose over Gino. There's no reason to even question Moose about it because Moose has a reputation for being a bit of a wild card. And why would Gino lie to Steph or lie to Jace? So pretty good. They talk about bringing Herman in as well and replacing Moose with Herman, what they had talked about earlier in the morning. Kyle is a little skeptical of Herman. He feels like, he's not sure. Marty says, why wouldn't Herman want to play with us? We're the best. We're the best competitors. And Kyle says, I just think Herman is the kind of player that's going to want to take out big targets. He's going to want to get some trophies, check the big names off the list. And so he's a little bit skeptical of the idea. Kyle says there's strength in numbers. This is what I was referring to earlier. He says, the more people see us together, the less willing they're going to be to take a shot at us because they know that they can only take one of us out at a time. And if we have numbers, the more numbers we have, the more worried people are going to be to come after us, which unfortunately, yes, is the case. That's the case. That's usually what happens in the Big Brother house. Now, what should happen with savvy enough players is that the more numbers somebody has, the more that you have to target them. But oftentimes, especially with inexperienced players, you do get instead you get the idea that, well, I couldn't target them. They have too much power. Then how are you going to stop them later? What are you going to do? So that's kind of the plan. And they are in a good spot here. They really are. Marty, a little bit less so. Marty is a little bit of a liability because Marty has said to so many people, so many targets, that if Steph won or if Betty won or even if JC won, like there are so many people that if they won, they would have a great excuse to go after Marty. And that would cut into the power structure that these guys are trying to build. And they'd have a hard time arguing against it because Marty directly talked about targeting these people or directly put these people on the block. Now, the question is, will they have the backbone to do something like that, even if the guys wouldn't be super happy about it? And I would hope yes, because that's how Big Brother needs to be played if you want to do well, but you never really know. So that's what's going on yesterday on the feeds. There was a little bit from this morning that I can give you from before the live feed update started, but we can, potentially get into more detail on that tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat as well as I run through some of this. Kyle and Gino this morning, we're talking some more about bringing Herman in. Kyle does trust Herman a lot more than Moose, so he's okay with it. So the plan is to bring Herman in. That is officially on. Kyle also brings up Helena as somebody that they could pull in, additional numbers. He says that Jess and Kevin he also feels good about. So maybe pick up some of those misfits and bring them into the alliance would be a good idea. Kyle also pitches to Gino his idea from the night before, saying that Gino should go to Jace about the cutting the guys thing, say it's from Moose, and Gino is on board with it. They're going to wait a few days to make it happen, but the plan is a go for throwing Moose under the bus and putting Moose out in front of them as a target. Kyle lets Gino know, you're my number one. You're my number one in this house. I am with you to the end. We are Dane and Anthony. And he says, I'm going to let you know my only secret in the house, that the only thing I've kept from you so far is that I actually know someone from before the game. I know in the Feeds Cup, but he eventually reveals he knew Moose. And we kind of knew this. I think they were following each other on Instagram or something. And Kyle has actually said publicly that that him and Moose have some mutuals, which is not an uncommon thing. Actually, Moose has has mutuals with a couple of other people in the house as well. But this seems to be something a little bit deeper that we haven't seen discussed in detail on the feeds, that that he did in fact know Moose before coming into the house, and despite that, still doesn't trust Moose, which, it's mayhem Moose. So he reveals this to Gino, and he says, Gino, now you know all of my secrets, and you know everything. I'm completely 100 with you now. And Gino is like, I'm in. I'm totally in as well. And I'm going to go to the end with you. I'm going to choose you over Jace. Don't worry about it. They both talk about being well off. They have enough money. They're fine. They don't need the money. It's not about the money. So they're okay taking each other to the end and losing. They would gladly lose to one another if that were the case. So they are locked in for now. Another thing that happened this morning was that Betty is going to finally confront Marty about... Now, Betty, I neglected to mention this. Betty was very upset with Kevin throughout the day yesterday. She was also very upset with Marty. And she mentioned this phrase many times. He told me to kick my feet up. How dare he? How dare he tell me to kick my feet up? No, don't tell me to kick my feet up. She said kick my feet up so many times. She finally confronted Marty about it this morning. She said, why'd you tell me to kick my feet up? Why'd you do that? And Marty said, I at the time I thought you were fine. The only reason I put you up is because of the vote. I had to make sure that the votes were there to take out Jay. And Betty says, well, now the votes aren't here to take out Jay. What if I go home? I'm scared that I'm going to go home. He tries to reassure her that she's not. And he said that, don't worry, the votes are there. And he gives her the names. And she says, well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you give me a heads up? That I don't understand that. And he said it wasn't personal, and it wasn't for TV, even though it was good TV, he says. And he said he just didn't want to prepare the other side. He didn't want to give the other side a warning to allow them to prepare something. That was the reason he didn't let anyone know. So there you go. There's more stuff. I mean, it's been like gaming nonstop, I feel like, this morning in terms of the feed. So plenty to talk about on tomorrow's update, but just a couple of things from today. All right, let's answer some questions and then we'll wrap up here. Now, of course, the first roundtable of the season will be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you come to my Twitter at Armstrong Taran. I will be posting the link for the survey where you can rate all kinds of things, the players, the show, and tell me who your favorite is and all of that. So make sure you come and do that. And then tune in tonight where we'll go over the results and we'll rate the players ourselves and we'll talk through everything that's going on, talk through the state of the house and all of that. Should be a good time. So make sure you tune in again tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Who's going home? It's still Jay at the moment. And I do think that Betty has been cooling off. And so Jay's window of opportunity to really paint Betty in a certain light is closing fast. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. Who besides himself is Kevin most loyal to? I would say really nobody. I would say the relationships he's the closest that are the closest to him: Helena, Jess, Kyle. He's been working closely with Marty this week, but I think that's just because Marty was HOH. I don't know if he's going to continue to work closely with Marty, but now that he's developed that asset, he's probably not going to let it go. So you can maybe include Marty in that list. But those are probably the people that he is spending the most time with, most time talking with, and is the most open with. Let's see here. Helena's plans are working. Yes, Helena is consistently being included in talks of who they should bring in, as is Kevin, and occasionally, Jess. So it's pretty good. Are there misfits in the house? I mean, theoretically, right? Like the sort of perception is that that Kevin and Jess are kind of misfits, and that's what's going on. Kyle, yes. So Kyle did say that he trusts. So Kyle trusts Herman a lot more than Moose. He's just still worried that Herman is the kind of player that will eventually want to flip on them and take out the big targets. But for now, he is definitely trusting Herman and wanting to work with Herman over Moose. Did we already know that Kyle knew Moose outside the house? People suspected it in the preseason because, again, I think that they were following each other on social media. But we still don't even really know the full extent of how they knew each other exactly. But they did know each other to some degree. Of the Guys Alliance, who do I think is the biggest target right now if somebody outside of them wins HOH? The biggest target, I mean, it's probably Marty, really. I mean, it's just a matter of does the rest of the house get to a position where they feel like Marty comes around on the other side and is not a big enough target because he is too much of a target? Gino is probably the least targeted person, and the person that is the least likely to be targeted. Kyle, I think, is somebody that could theoretically be targeted. They're trying to push Moose out in front. Herman, I think, is very, very safe. Herman is pretty good. The only person targeting Herman is Moose. So, in terms of the guys and the list of how likely they are to be targeted, I'd probably say like Marty number 1, Moose, or maybe even Moose number 1, Marty number 2, Kyle number 3, and then like Gino and Herman, or Herman and Gino. And then Josh is Josh is not with them, right? So I'm not including him in that group. But Josh is definitely somebody that could go up on the block, but he's not with the bro crew. So it would be by a different. The bros themselves could end up targeting Josh, and they have talked about it. If I were in the house, who would I want as my final two? I mean, Marty is not a bad final two, not to bring to the final two necessarily, but to have Marty locked in as your final two. Like, Marty is just such a straightforward player. You're never gonna have to worry about it, and he's gonna always take it, like, pull attention to himself, and he's winning competitions, and he's super loyal. So it's like very like that's a great ally to have in the game. Somebody that reliable. But I'd be working with the Kevins and the Jesses and the Helenas for sure. I really like that. I really like players that think in the way that they do. But in terms of who you should want to bring to the final two, I would say right now you would probably, like, thinking about who has the least chance of like winning a final two jury vote. I would say maybe, and honestly, I think Tanisha's a great ally as well. I think Tanisha's another one like Marty, where she's always going to be like loyal to her people, and that's always super valuable to have. But I would say the person least likely to win a jury vote right now is probably Betty or Stephanie. But the thing is, like, if Stephanie gets there, I think she'll win a little bit of respect because she's already being looked at so much. Whereas Betty right now, the talk of the town is that Betty, she's bad at competitions. She's now being used as a pawn. It's not looking great. Whereas, even people like Jess and Kevin, even though they're not respected right now, if they got to the end, it would be like, how did they do that? Whereas Betty, they'd feel like she was probably dragged at this point, but definitely could change. It's very early, and I don't think anybody's like at a complete loss in terms of juries. Have people been misgendering Jay a lot? So this is something that comes up a lot. That Marty in particular has the most trouble with it, and he has explained that English is a second language, and it's I think my understanding is that it's a little more difficult for him to get it right. But he has been making an effort, and anytime anybody gets anything wrong, there's always somebody there to quickly correct them. If somebody says he, they go them them. Sorry, them. So I would say that they're all putting the effort in, and that's I think is appreciated. How can the other side of the house take a shot at Kyle, Gino, Marty? Just win, Just win and take the shot is what you have to do. Who was the one that initially made the idea that there is an other side of the house against Marty to make him put up Betty? I mean, Kevin really sort of tried to make Marty suspicious as much as possible. Marty was already on that idea. Marty is kind of a paranoid player, as we've seen, and he's often thinking that people are much more against him than they actually are, as we've seen many times. So I would say that Marty already kind of thought it. Kevin played into it, and so it started to really solidify, and it's even sort of spread to Marty's allies. People like Kyle and Gino are also sort of feeling that way now as well. Again, like all this talk of like, oh, they all scattered after the veto ceremony. They had to change their plans. Like, it's not really what happened, but the perception is that it did. Who's playing the best game so far? Tune in tonight, the roundtable. We'll see who has the best rating. Does Josh still have a window to get back in with people? Yes, I definitely think so. Will he is the question. He's in this position where he's not doing it, and if he hasn't done it yet, he probably won't. But that doesn't mean that he can't. We have seen some players change their social sort of strategies before. So I definitely think the window is still wide open. Like I said, I think he's got the skills to do it. So all he needs to do is start turning it on, and I think he can be okay. But he has to turn it on first. Josh is not really in the power structure at all. He's kind of clinging on with the 7, but even then it's not great. Has anyone compared how Kevin is playing to Kaiser Sose? Yes, I mean that's what Kevin talks about all the time. He says that people either see him as really dumb or some secret evil genius mastermind, and the truth is somewhere in the middle, which is the truth is somewhere in the middle. Jess is definitely lucky that Marty won HOH, but you do think they played relatively well. I agree. They've been playing much better this week than I think they did the previous week. And even just the first couple nights of feeds versus now, there's a huge difference in their social standing in the house. I think that those first couple of nights we saw them particular, and we still see these these situations sometimes where they kind of stick their foot in their mouth, but it happened a lot more often the first few nights of the feeds versus now. And I think the difference is that those first few nights, they were still feeling very uncomfortable, very unwelcome. And they've made some inroads now. They're feeling a little more comfortable. And because of that, people are coming around and things are working a little better. Gino's final 2 is Kyle at this point. I do believe that is the case. Will anyone confront Kevin about putting himself down too much? I think so. I think people will eventually. Summer, I think, is the most likely. Who would put Jess up at this point? Honestly, not many people. Maybe Herman. Herman might do it. Just Herman. It's a great way to keep all of his groups together. Jess is somebody that he has put up before, so I could see Herman doing it. Would Jess target Herman? Very possible. But it depends on what kind of alliances they end up included in. Kyle mentioned Jess as a possible option to join this group with Herman, so we'll see if that goes anywhere. Let's see. Let's see. Anything else? Who is Jess loyal to? Again, I feel like Jess is not particularly loyal to anyone. I do think that Jess and Kevin, if possible, will try to save Jay. If the option is available, they would love to save Jay. Uh, but if Jay goes, I think they like each other to a degree. I think they're working together to some amount. But you know, not much else. Do I think Kevin, Jess, and Helena will win the HOH? I think they'll probably all try. Will they win the game? I think they have a chance. But you know, you know. All right. I think that's about what we've got here for today. Thank you all so much for joining me, though. I hope you enjoyed the solo dolo update here today. It was again, I'm really enjoying the game right now. It's very fluid. It's very interesting. This is usually what we see in the first couple of weeks of the game. So I love how many people are playing. They're playing hard. They're moving around. They're trying to make things work. It's good stuff. I hope it continues. I hope we continue to see this happen. And to me, the key is that the competitions so far have been very good. They've been very equal playing field. Everybody's had a chance to win these competitions. If that continues, I think we're going to see a great season. If even just like a couple of the upcoming HOH competitions or competitions in general are like just a little too physical, then I think we might be in some trouble, because it's exactly what Kyle and his crew are looking for right now are like just a couple of those competitions to be physical enough that they can win them. And then they're going to start taking people out, and it's going to be too late to turn the tides. So I think we really need these competitions to continue to be equal playing field competitions, because then we're going to see some good TV, I think. So thank you so much for joining me here today. Make sure you come and hang out with me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I'll be live during every episode. Big Brother Canada 10 and Survivor, which is going to start up here on Wednesday, 2-hour premiere at 8 p.m. Eastern. Watch live with me. It's a really good time. If you haven't tried it yet, it's really cool. Even just like having the chat and being able to talk with people in the chat is really fun. So come and join me over on Twitch as I watch the episodes live with all of you. And then, of course, the roundtable tonight. Come and tune in for that. Again, the survey will be posted on my Twitter as soon as I make that after this update. And then Wednesday nights, there will be no live recap for the Wednesday night Big Brother Canada 10 episode, but I will record one that will go up at some point later in the night. It will be a bit shorter than usual, but it should be a good time anyway. So check all of that out. Check out the Taran Show. There's one with Ty this past week, and this week Kevin Martin joined me for the Taran Show. So we got some Big Brother Canada players that we got some fun stuff there. And that's pretty much what I've got for you. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel here, Rob Is a Podcast, or the podcast feed, wherever you want to consume this content. There's a Big Brother feed where you can get all of the Big Brother content in one place for the podcast if you want to do that. So again, thank you so much for joining me here today, and I will see all of you next time.